Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wedding to Wife podcast. I am Jennifer Allen, your host, and today is another amazing guest coming on, spilling all of the wedding tea on her Atlanta wedding. If you are a bride, this is something that you need to listen to if you're in the process of planning or even helping a friend plan. This is definitely a conversation that you are going to enjoy. So, Miss Brittany, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Good. So, before we get started talking about your beautiful wedding, the pictures were, oh my goodness. Before we get into that, so if you're watching this on YouTube or seeing a clip on our Wedding to Wife social media, we will have pictures sprinkled in. So, if you're listening, I encourage you to also go watch so that you can see the beauty that was this wedding. So, Brittany, tell me, how did you and your now husband meet?
I know, so weird going from fiance to husband. We met back in 2012. We both lived in South Florida. I was in Fort Lauderdale, he was in Miami, and it was interesting because I was traveling a lot at the time. So the fact that we met was huge. Dated a little bit. Of course, things happen, break up, and then reconnected. Probably back in 2017, 2018. Had our daughter 2019. Then we got engaged December 2020. We had a beautiful like family dinner at Mastro Steakhouse in DC and had a beautiful proposal for, myself and our daughter. And then, I would say I started planning, but I didn't because in the middle of COVID. And so
Mhm.
we really just kind of took a pause and then really started planning everything, I would say, starting April of last year.
Okay. So, was your proposal your dream proposal? Did you have any input? Were you surprised?
I was not surprised because we talked about rings before, so I knew it was coming. And in terms of
Okay.
dream proposal for me, the fact that he did it on his own. I'm a big planner, so the fact that he planned it, it was what he wanted to say, how he wanted to do it. That's what meant a lot to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. And you said for you and your daughter, how was she
Yeah.
incorporated?
I mean, she was there at the dinner, so he just
Okay.
made sure to
Okay.
like just that's his daughter too. So just kind of
Right.
say like not only us getting married, but us kind of being officially a family. So that was always
Yeah.
sweet, and kind of how we also tied in our daughter to our wedding ceremony as well.
Okay. So when you started planning your wedding in April of last year, what was something that during the process you were like, oh my God, I can't believe this cost this much money?
You know what? I'm a little bougie, so to me, like
I love it.
the
I
cost
love
of
it.
things, I was like, if I want it, I'm gonna do it. So I don't think it was the big things. For me, it's like the little details. It's like, oh wait, I want a veil. Like full stop, my veil was $1,700. I never thought I
Mm,
would pay that much for a veil, but it was gorgeous. And so I think for me, it's like the little details. Like, okay, veils are
hmm
this much. I end up getting a perfume, the perfumes de Marley Delina, which was like 388. So just like it's
hmm
the little things that add up that are like, oh wait, I'm spending this much on these small
This
items. So
small
that's
thing, right?
that's what's surprising to me. But again, to me, it was worth it, and you make it work. But yeah, it was the small things that definitely added up.
So with your veil, was it a particular describe the veils as? Was it
Yeah.
a cathedral length veil?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, it was
okay.
cathedral length because my dress was, I wanted to bring the drama. So it had lace,
hmm
the crystals, a very long train, and also had beautiful like lace detailing in the train. And I wanted kind of the same thing with the veil. So it was a cathedral length veil, had like the lace detailing all around it, and it just matched perfectly with my dress. I knew if my dress was drama, the veil has to bring the drama, and that's what I
Let's
did.
go.
Yes.
Who designed? Where did you get your dress from? Did you go
So
to a personal designer?
now I went to Bridal by Lori here in
Okay.
Atlanta, and it was the eve of my lady dress, which is so funny because when I first started looking at dresses, maybe about 2 years ago, it was like the second dress I favorited. And I looked at
Mm.
other dresses, but like always came back to that one. And once I tried it on, I like this is it. I knew.
So I love that, and I love the fact that you said I'm kind of bougie, so I'm not really worried about
Yes,
what the cost was because listen,
right.
if you're
Let's
gonna
be
do it,
clear.
do it
Exactly,
like
exactly. That's how I feel. Like no Amazon, no Fashion Nova, no
yeah.
Sheen in this wedding.
Yes. Did you have a wedding planner?
I did not. So the venue came with a planner, but that focused on what all came with the venue. So the venue was all inclusive. So it came with
Okay.
flora and decor,
Oh,
catering the
awesome.
food, and they did everything. So I just had to manage like all of my outside vendors. And because
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very organized person, one, and two, all my vendors were wedding professional vendors, it wasn't a big deal. I will say, as a bride, if you aren't going with wedding professional vendors, and you will definitely need a planner or coordinator to help you manage your vendors. But for me, with the professionalism of everyone and the venue covered, I didn't have to have an extra planner.
So your venue provided that day of support that you needed to get down the aisle and
Well, it's about maybe about 4 or 5 months before, so they coordinated
okay.
everything with the venue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Did you have a large bridal party?
No, it was six groomsmen, six bridesmaids, so it was
Okay.
perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what the topic that we've kind of been discussing here lately is, did you pay for your bridesmaids' dresses?
So I did not pay for their dresses. I picked out their dress, let them choose. I said any gold heel and gold jewelry. What I did pay for, I paid for their hair and makeup the day of.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Because we really my sister is in a wedding and everything is just kind of starting to spiral.
Hmm.
And so the hair, the makeup, the shoes, the jewelry, and
Hmm.
it's like wow, this is becoming a lot. And I think
Yes.
that the ongoing conversation that we've been having lately is giving people the opportunity to discuss that cost up front
Yeah.
because so they can figure out if they want to make that commitment or not.
Yeah.
So, how many guests did you have at your wedding?
So it is about maybe around 118. We wanted to cap it at 125, and so it really worked out at being around that amount. And I knew that because, again, I knew I wanted nice things, like nice dress, nice jewelry, nice ring, everything. And so that meant something had to give. So I would say for
Yeah.
brides, if you want to have this luxury, glam, whatever wedding, you're going to have to cut your guest list down. There's really no way around it because you're talking about feeding, decorating for 200 plus people. That's going to take away from other things. So for us, we really wanted it at that around 125 and we got it very close. So we were very happy with that.
So when you were planning your wedding, what was at the top of your idea board of like this is a must have when I think about the experience that I want for my wedding? Like what was a non-negotiable?
Oh, good food.
Okay.
Like that's another thing where because I knew I've been to weddings where the food's been not so great, but that's because it
Mhm.
was a lot of people and it's hard to feed a lot of people great food on limited
Yeah.
budgets. So for
Chicken,
me,
green beans and mashed
right,
potatoes.
right, and rolls. We're not doing
And a roll.
all right. So for us, it's like, we had two proteins. I love salmon. We had a really good salmon dish, really good. My husband loves short rib, pasta, entree, salad, hors d'oeuvres, a whole thing because I knew I like good food. I like to eat,
Mhm.
and so I definitely wanted our guests to have that really good experience with good food, good music and a good time.
Did you have an open bar or cash bar?
We had it wasn't an open bar, so we did beer, wine, and we had signature drinks. And
Okay.
so that was and that was open, but it wasn't just like you get any other drink you want, which is actually funny because my husband was like, "Wait, we're not having an open bar." And I'm like, "But babe, this is actually more economical." You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
And then like again, we had no one complained. There are like three different types of beers, three different types of wines. We had non-alcoholic beverages, and we had our
Mhm.
signature drinks. It's like if you wanted something else, then you can go somewhere else and get that. And that's kind of
Yeah.
what you also learn along the way. People that are having this like input in your wedding but aren't paying for things, it's like, okay, you kind of learn who's really for you and who's really just there for a
Yeah.
good time. Yeah,
Yeah. And I think that that's something that's really important because it's like trying to people don't understand that when you have a people pleasing mentality, that does not stop ever for most
exactly.
people. And that carries over into your wedding planning.
Hmm.
So when you are trying to plan this wedding for other people,
Hmm.
it's like you're never going to be able to please everybody in the room, right? So you
Right.
said you wanted to have 125 guests. So with wanting to have 125 guests, it's impossible to make 125 people individually happy to where they
Mhm.
all thought this was the best experience. So
Right.
because you can't do that, focus on giving the two of you the
Hmm.
experience that you have always wanted and you have always dreamed of is what is most important. So,
Exactly.
did you do all of the pre-wedding festivities, bridal shower, bachelorette party? Did all of that happen?
We did not. So my husband, he says he's a little older. He's 44, and so a lot of
Hmm.
his friends are married with kids. So he's like, yeah, they're not gonna do anything. So he ended up just going to Spain last summer with a couple of his
Oh.
guy friends. That was like his little bachelor
Hmm.
little party. And then I was gonna have I didn't have a bridal shower. I just for me, all my bridesmaids were across country, and
Okay.
and it just became I was gonna like maybe do virtual, but then I ended up not. And then we were gonna do a bachelorette party in Jamaica, ended up not happening because just at the time flights were just expensive, and I was like, I don't
Yeah.
want to ask people to spend $800 to $1,000 just on a flight.
Right.
And they ended up working out because my dad actually was in the hospital the time we were gonna go, so I would have had to cancel
Hmm.
anyway. So it ended up kind of working out. So we didn't do the pre-festivities, but for me, I think I'm an older bride. I'm 38. A lot of my friends, we have, demanding careers. We have,
Hmm.
husbands, kids, and so I felt like it wasn't like a big miss. I can always do
Hmm.
a girls trip later, but for
Yeah.
us, to me, I still had an amazing experience. And so that wouldn't have made or break it for me. But I do hear a lot of younger brides in their early 20s are like really into engagement party, bridal shower, like
Yeah.
bachelorette party and all that. And I'm just like, again, that also is taking away funds from your actual wedding day. So just kind of be clear when
Yeah.
you're looking at planning those things, can we really afford it to the level that we want it to be?
And that is such a key point because the money is the money. So if you have a budget of $30,000 and then you want to have all these other things, if
Mm-hmm.
you're having to financially contribute to those, you're chipping away
Yes.
from that. And this obscene guest count that people want to have, I'm always like, how do you know all of these people? Like
Right.
where did you have 300 guests from? And it's like, when you think about it, so this is okay. This is my next question for you. Did everybody you invite get a plus one?
No.
Okay.
So we were very specific. You got a plus one if, of course, you're married,
Mm-hmm.
engaged, or in a like a long-term partnership where we like knew the partners. Like we were very clear on that. And also, we didn't invite anyone under 21. We were very clear on that. The only
Okay.
kid there was our daughter.
Oh, awesome. So did
Yeah.
you get any pushback from anyone on there not being any kids?
Oh, I did not. My husband may
Good.
have, I did not, because again, this is our wedding.
Yeah.
And my mom would say something cute. She was like, if they're not paying, they're not saying. So if no
I
one's
love that.
inputting, they don't need to say anything. So
If
yeah.
you not paying, you not saying nothing to me because you are
Yeah,
not dropping
exactly.
a coin. Did y'all have any help with paying for your wedding, or was it just on you and your husband?
So my parents paid for our floor and decor,
Okay.
and everything else was myself and my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did y'all sit down and come up with your budget?
Um, I will say we had an idea like last year, and then as you progress, that doubles. So
Yeah.
for me, I think, what I did, I'm big organizer, I had a spreadsheet. So when we had certain vendors, I said, hey, I would give him, let's say videography. These are like 3 or 4 options, and these are their prices, their package, what they offer. So I let him know it's not just the price, it's like what all comes with it.
Hmm.
And so we did that for each vendor, and it's like we knew what we wanted to save on versus what we want to splurge on. And so just as things come up, we do that. And it's actually funny. We end up doing our exit on a helicopter, and that was actually my husband's idea. So even with that, it's like we were adding on stuff as we see. But for us, I won't say there wasn't a budget. I mean, there ended up not being. I mean, I wasn't going to pay. I had a cap for certain things. Like I'm
Okay.
not going to pay $2,000 for a bridal robe. Like that was my cap.
Right.
Like I'm not going to
Right.
do it. But
Right.
for the most part, we saw the value in certain things, and if it's something we wanted to do, we looked at different, vendors, and just kind of made it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to a bride who's just starting out her planning
Mhm.
and she doesn't even know where to start?
Yeah. I would say just kind of do pre-planning. Think about venues you want to look at. Just get prices because you don't know until you know. Just look
Hmm.
at different prices, different venues in your area, different prices for like photography, videography, dresses, alterations. Just get a general sense of what things cost. Because one
Hmm.
thing people try to do, oh, I want that wedding on Instagram or Pinterest. Well, that wedding was $250,000. Like, let's be
Yes.
real. You know, I was on another podcast and it's like people see these florals, anything hanging from the ceiling is
Woo,
expensive because someone has
the
to get up
installation.
there and do it. So like the labor and even looking at, we were intentional having our wedding in June. Roses are in season. We had
Hmm.
beautiful pink roses. That's in season, so
Right.
looking at also what's going on. So I think just getting a general idea of what things cost can help you. And then the second thing is really be realistic about how you're going to pay for the wedding. We
Yeah.
are very fortunate. We have really good careers. I work in the pharmaceutical industry, so I have, we have really 5, 6 figure bonuses. I
Hmm.
have equity, so I would get dividends. So that paid, and my husband, of course, he contributed as well. That paid for the wedding, but a lot of people
Hmm.
don't really understand that. They're like, oh, I can just work, Uber Eats or Amazon. That's not always feasible, if you
Yeah.
already work full time. So like really be realistic about where the money is coming from, and then you can really decide on how much we can actually afford to spend.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's very true because you have to think if you're I don't know how much people make delivering for Uber Eats or anything, but if let's just say you're making an extra $300 a week, you just said you spent what $1,700 on a veil.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like, do the math. Like,
Right.
is it worth, like,
Right.
when you think about it in that aspect? So when you see these pictures of, ooh, I want that,
Hmm.
well, is it worth it for the amount of time it's going to take you
Right.
to get it? And so
Yep.
I think that prioritizing, is getting married now the priority, or is it getting married the way you want to the priority?
Yeah.
Because you can always stretch out in engagement and be engaged for 2, 3, 4, 5 years
Hmm.
to actually be able to save up for this wedding. But how many other things are you putting on hold in your
Yeah.
life until you get married? Are you putting off buying a home, having kids, having more kids,
Hmm.
traveling, because you're trying to save every dime? So I really do think it's important to figure out like what your non-negotiables are. So if you
Hmm.
know, like, no, we need to have food, I'm willing to spend whatever is necessary for the perfect meal, then put that at the bottom of your pyramid because that's the biggest, that is the base.
Yeah.
And find out what that's going to cost. Subtract that from your overall budget, and that's how much you have left for everything else. So
Hmm.
start at what's most important. And I think people don't calculate in the small things when they are planning. If your budget is $30,000 and you're thinking, okay, food, venue, photographer, officiant, what about your dress? What about the rings? What about your shoes? What about hair and makeup? Those are all things that are a part of your wedding day
Yeah.
that people don't account for. And
Yeah.
then they're like, alterations cost how much?
Right. And the thing is, why I mean, that was also another lesson. Like I knew any dress you get, you have to have altered. And
Mm-hmm.
if you have a dress, like I was lucky enough, I'm tall enough, I didn't have to have my dress hemmed. I just took the breast in and the side and did a bustle, and that was it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but again, when I bought my dress, they told me estimate this for alteration. So I have a spreadsheet. I know
Mm-hmm.
how much I'm spending on things, what the estimate is. So I'm tracking things along. But again, learning about weddings. Like you're gonna have to get your
Mm-hmm.
dress altered because one thing I hate to see is a dress that's not altered. Like to me,
And
that
you just
screams,
got it on.
you know what? It's
you
like
just you just
sleeves
got it
hanging
on.
off. It's too long. You're kicking it down the aisle. And again, to me, it's about the details. You don't
Yeah.
have to have the most expensive dress, but if it's tailored and it fits you well, that to me, that's what looks like beauty. And I think for me also, this is like the biggest day of your life. Why would you
Mm-hmm.
not want to look the most amazing?
Yeah.
So also
Yeah.
looking at, but kind of back to your earlier point about people planning the financial part, it's a good discussion to have with your husband or fiance about just in general, how do we handle finances? Because
Yeah.
it's like you can probably push off a wedding, okay, but if you don't change your habits, you're going to never be able to afford the wedding you want, right?
Correct.
Buying a house, I mean, it's non-negotiables. You can pay 20% down payment, 10, 3, 3% depending on the
Right.
loan, but that's the set amount. You have closing costs, a set amount. So I
Yeah.
know people will say, oh, we want to have this or that, but you still have to have savings and understand the financial implications of all that.
100%.
And so I think a lot of times people aren't having those financial conversations about what things cost. People say, oh, well, we're going to save because we're having a baby. Okay, baby is also optional. That's a cost as well. So really
Yeah.
understanding the cost of every decision you make, because that's not going to stop your wedding day. That's going to go your entire marriage. So I think financially understanding your habits, and because some people, like I said, you could push the wedding off for 2 years and still not save, and then you just 2 years later still crying, we're going to
Correct.
push it, 2 more years. So I
Right.
think also having conversations and be truth about your finances. Like maybe again, I mean, people have 200, 300 guest count. To me, it's absurd, because most people can't afford to have the level they want with that many people, but really be
Right.
realistic. That's why, and I started following you years ago because I'm like, just a little, this is perfect, because some people can have beautiful weddings with like 50 people or less. Because, like you
Yeah.
said, these 300 people, you don't know them. Like, we were
No.
very intentional about finding people that knew our daughter's name, knew how old she was, knew what was
Right.
going on
Right.
in our life. I just got a new job. My husband got promoted. And so, again, really focusing on making it about you and not trying to please everybody else.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. What was it, anything, I know you mentioned the helicopter. Was it anything else that your husband wanted for your wedding that was one of his non-negotiables?
I would say that was it. He really surprised me at the end. He actually had these little coins made for us, that little wedding favors, has our engagement photo, the date, and like our
Mm.
little wedding logo. But that was the only thing he really wanted. I would say, oh, he was wanted, like, his the big thing is like the drinks, so like food and drinks. So we definitely waited on that. But that was pretty much it for him. He was very easy maintenance going.
Good, good. Most guys are. They're just kind of like, they have their thing and they're like,
Yeah.
it's fine. With your venue that you had, you mentioned that it was all inclusive. Were you there for hair and makeup? Like, were you there the entire day, or did you go somewhere else?
Yeah, so it came with what I also loved about the venue. It had a bridal cottage and a groom's cottage. And the bridal cottage had like a
Mm.
full bathroom, like a separate bedroom for me, had a full area for hair and makeup, like 4 chairs with
Mm-hmm.
lighting, had the seat upstairs was like the kitchen. So we had breakfast and lunch. So yeah, we were
Oh,
there from 10 a.m. and then the wedding ceremony was at 5 p.m. So we were there, had breakfast, champagne,
oh, that's
mimosas,
awesome.
hair and makeup, and lunch, and then went to, just I was like 5 minute walk to where the
Yeah,
ceremony space was. And I highly recommend that, because especially in Atlanta with traffic, you don't want to dealing with getting it. And then you're in your dress, you don't want to get in, a vehicle to get out. And then
yeah,
for me, if you can have everything all in one, it's just easier for everybody, and less chance for hiccups.
yeah. That Atlanta traffic is no joke.
Yes, no
I
joke.
went to Atlanta last year when I did the Brat and Judy's wedding, and
Yeah.
it was gridlock
Yes.
traffic.
Yeah.
And then their wedding started maybe like 2 hours after it was supposed to,
Oh my God.
because not only the traffic, but then everybody there had to be COVID tested, and so
Oh.
it was like just this chaos
Yeah.
of a day, and so many things going on behind the scenes.
Hmm.
But you're absolutely right when you made mention of the floral and anything that needs to be hung up. They had these beautiful installations hung from the ceiling, and the planner in me is thinking anything that comes up has to come down,
Hmm.
and people don't understand that's included in the cost as well.
Yes.
Like, labor is
Hmm.
no joke.
Yes.
And you don't get to determine somebody's prices.
Right.
Like, people's prices are their prices, and they're not set around your budget. Like, they're set
Exactly.
around their business. And a lot of the times people think, oh, I could just do this myself, or this shouldn't cost. People think that this shouldn't cost this much. And so that's one of the reasons why we're going to be interviewing wedding vendors, because I really
Yes.
want to be able to have these transparent conversations and break down with people why things cost the way that they cost. Like, I want somebody to explain to me why
Yeah.
bridal makeup costs more than regular
Yeah.
makeup. Like,
Yeah.
are you using get married brushes? Like, I need to know
And that
the
comes up a lot of,
reason.
yeah, I'm in a different bridal groups, and that's like the main thing. They're like, why am I paying more for bridal hair and makeup? But people are explaining it has to last all day. Like, my
All day.
makeup artist, hair, everyone was phenomenal. When I tell you my makeup, like, I didn't got married Saturday. I didn't wash off my makeup till Sunday night, and it looked amazing
Listen,
the whole time. And we're like, Atlanta
let's.
humidity, I have
Mhm.
oily skin. Like, you want stuff that lasts. Like, I see so many pictures, brides, they may have their lace wig lifting. I mean, it's just like,
Yeah.
if you want professional quality, you have to go with professionals, and that's going to cost because they have to know how to get your makeup to last for 12 plus hours. Your hair needs to last 12 plus hours. You know, your
Mm-hmm.
video, you want your videos back, you want your pictures back, and you
Yeah.
want them to be good quality, and that costs money.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that that is awesome. So I want to wrap up by asking you if you could think of one thing that you could have purchased or done instead of having your wedding based on the amount that you spent, what would that be?
That's interesting. I don't know. I mean, but full disclosure, like we both like he owns a home, I own a home, so we already have a home. We already have two
Hmm.
homes, and I don't. I mean, I can't think of anything that I would buy. I'm trying to think what costs that much.
He's like, hmm.
Yeah, maybe like a private jet ride to like somewhere. I mean, I
Okay.
don't know, but
How
yeah, for
many of your favorite Chanel bags could you have bought?
I mean, probably a lot. I'm not a bag person, but I mean, it was a lot. We could have,
Okay.
but again, for me, just in life, we're not my husband and I are more on experience as opposed to stuff. And so for
Big
us,
time.
investing in experience is more than just having, bags or shoes, things like
Yeah.
that. So for us, like I mean, yeah, I could have probably bought a lot of shoes or bags, and then they're just sitting in my closet. I can't wear them
Yeah.
all at once. But for us, I
Right.
say we're big on the experience, and so every penny spent was absolutely worth it.
Good. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. Thank you so much for coming
Yes.
on and sharing your story with us. That is some great advice for brides. Literally, you need to start to pre-plan. And I think that's great because people say, "Oh, my budget is, $20,000." Well, what are you basing though that number off
Right.
of? Like, where did you get $20,000? And because if you do the research, I love that. If you do the pre-planning and
Mhm.
find out, like, okay, alterations could be $500,
Mhm.
then that may make you realize, like, oh, well, I thought I'd be able to go pay $100. They just
Right.
be because what people immediately think is all they're doing is blank,
Right.
blank, blank. And
Right.
so that makes them want to diminish the amount that
Yep.
somebody charges for something because they feel
Yep.
like all they doing is just sewing the inside
Right.
but it's like if it's that easy, then you do it.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So
And you're
that is
right.
not a
Yep.
thing.
They pick out stuff out of the air. They have no idea for budget. Like I will say 20,000 was probably the cost of my videographer, photographer, and our hair and makeup for the day.
Yeah.
And that's just a small piece. So
Right.
people they don't know what they don't know. So definitely do pre-research, figure out because, I was in a Facebook group and someone was like, they had like 200 people. Their budget for floral and decor was $2,000. I'm like, that's not a budget.
Huh.
Like you're going to
That's
be
not.
doing like paper, snowflakes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that isn't
Yeah.
even, that's not reasonable. But again, I think people, do a guest count first. No,
Yeah.
figure out what you want, your vision, how much it costs, and then figure out, okay, to have X, Y, and Z, how many people do we need to invite? So definitely worry about guest count last because that's a big part of your budget, but that's an easy thing that you can definitely, change. But yeah, the biggest thing is that pre-research, figure out what stuff costs. Because,
Yeah.
like you said, people think, oh, just a this. Like for my dress, they had to take apart the whole bodice to make it smaller
Mhm.
and do the breast cups. You know what I mean? It's not just
Mhm.
easy. And it's lace and crystals. It's a couture gown.
Right.
Just Susie up the street, and the dry cleaners can't do that. So really making
Right.
sure if you're investing in certain pieces, you have to have the professionals. And I know wedding professionals and people cost more, but they cost more for a reason because they know
Correct.
what they're doing. It's excellent quality, professionalism, and you can't beat it. Like I love the way I look on the wedding day. There's nothing that I wanted that I didn't have, and but I paid for that because I wanted
Right.
that quality and experience.
And to your point of what you just said, even when you go to the doctor, you pay more to go to a specialist
Mhm.
than you do to pay to go to just your PCP
Exactly.
because you are now somebody has a an advanced skill set.
Exactly.
And so you want the people with the amount that you're spending, whether that's 10,000, whether you have budgeted down to 10,000 and you can make your vision come true, you still need the professionals that fall within that price range
Exactly.
because you want people that are going to make your day as stress free as possible.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
speaking of stress free as possible, we're going to go ahead and plug in. That's what we do at Just Elope, because we are an elopement and micro wedding planning company, and we host weddings for couples up to 50 that include the officiant, the photographer, the venue, and day of planner, so that all you have to do is pick from a package and simply show up. And although I love what I do, I also love the fact that there are brides that desire to have big, huge, glamorous, $100,000 weddings. I think that that's just as special because everybody, everybody's wants are different, and everybody's financial situation is different. But doing this, I've learned that it's not even about the money for some people. We married the CEO of Gold Fuel, Jaqui Rice Gold, and her father is Jerry Rice, NFL Hall of Famer. She picked like our $2,300 package, went to the lady that we referred to for the dresses here locally in Dallas, went to the makeup artist that we referred her to, had the most beautiful wedding that they wanted. She could have had a multi-million dollar wedding if that was the path that she wanted to go down, but it wasn't. And that's okay. But people don't get, like, on both ends, people get judged.
Yeah.
So when you have this extravagant amount of money, she said people used to say, I think she drove like a Prius or something for a number of years, and they would be like, "You're Jerry Rice's daughter. You're out here driving a Prius or Honda or whatever the car was." And so she's like, "Y'all are so obsessed with how people spend their money that it's insane. Like, why are you even worried
Yeah.
about, how I'm spending my money?" And her husband and her whole family, and her, I mean, of course her dad was there. It was a beautiful day, but it was how they wanted it.
Yeah.
And that's not to count their pockets, because they could have did whatever they wanted to do. No one needs to count your pockets, because
Right.
you did what you wanted to do and what you paid for.
Exactly.
Because, like
Exactly.
Mama said, if you ain't paying, you ain't
Right.
saying. If you ain't paying, that is, I'm from going forward. That is a part of my life. that that saying is a part of my
Yes.
life with so many things. If you ain't paying, you ain't
Yes.
saying.
Yes.
I'm using that today every chance that I get. I want my kids to complain about something,
Yeah.
because I'm gonna be like, look, if you ain't paying, you ain't saying.
Yeah.
Like, I'm using that today. I'm incorporating it in my vocabulary. That is a
Yeah.
thing for me now. So tell
And
your
if
mama I said thank you.
Yes, and one thing I wanted to add, because I always, I see this a lot, with the different like Black bridal groups. Sometimes the Black community has this either or, mentality.
Mm,
I can have the big wedding or the house. I was
yes.
on another podcast because we have the big wedding and we have two homes. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
trust me, Becky, white girl, the Asian girl, Hispanic girl, they're not, no one's telling them you could have either or. Like, no,
Either
they like
or.
we want it all. So as Black women, you want it all, figure out how to make it happen. Don't diminish what
Yeah.
you want because you don't think you deserve it. Figure out a way to sit down. And that could be, like you said, could be an amazing, micro wedding. And again, some micro weddings can cost more than some larger
Oh,
weddings. Because
big
if you
time.
have big, gorgeous, couture dress and veil, and it's so funny. I remember a couple of people, because sometimes brides get shamed, like we talked about people counting money. I remember when Simone Biles, when they got the courthouse picture, and people were like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh my gosh, we're spending all this money. She just did this, that, and the other." And I'm like, "Yeah, that was just a legal wedding because they're getting
Yeah.
married out of the country."
Mexico.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so the next couple of weeks, when you see her in her three couture Gallia Lahav gowns, which are phenomenal gowns, then people are like, "Oh, okay, never mind." But it's again, stay out of people's pockets. You don't know what people are deciding to do with their money and why. And don't sit here and feel like because you can't afford something, then you're shaming someone else. But the flip
Yeah.
side, don't try to diminish yourself because you can't afford something. And so I think
Yeah.
we, the Black community, need to just expand our mentality on what we could have. Think about, abundance and manifesting and, praying and working for more, but don't limit what you have and just really sit down and think about, what you want and how you can get it. Like I'm a big career person because, my job helped pay for all the extra stuff that I wanted, and I'm
Right.
thankful for that. That's the biggest thing. My husband and I, we paid for the wedding entirely in cash. Like everything was
Mm.
cash, no debt, and that was big for us. But that meant,
Right.
okay, let me be strategic in like my moves along the way and where am I spending my money?
Yeah. Did y'all go on a honeymoon?
We did. So we left that Tuesday after the wedding. We did about 5 days in Tangier, Morocco, and 3 days in
Mm,
Barcelona, Spain. So yeah, that was amazing.
good. Mama kept the baby?
Oh, absolutely. But when we came back, it was her birthday. So then we took her to Disney Magic Kingdom the
Okay.
Saturday after her birthday. So June was like jam-packed. But again,
Yeah.
we wanted those great experiences for
Yeah.
everyone.
Well, good. Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much for coming
Yes.
on today. I feel like I love getting real brides on to talk about their experience because everybody experience is so different, and you can have somebody that's listening right now that's kind of going through almost like an imposter syndrome of feeling bad for spending the type of money that they can't afford to spend, but they
Right.
you don't want nobody watching their pockets. Oh, look
Hmm.
at this and look at that. So I really appreciate you just being transparent and some of the pricing that you
Yeah.
you you paid for things, and just letting people know like, hey, if you want it, you can have it, but you need some financial discipline, not just for a wedding, but for your life in general,
Exactly.
because you'll keep going around that same circle over and over and over again. Well, Brittany, thank you so much for joining me
Yes.
today. This
This was
was so
great.
good. And thank you everybody for listening to the Wedding to Wife podcast. Y'all don't not understand, like, this is a true labor of love and it is growing. And I just get so excited and giddy anytime somebody's like, I listened to your, I'm like, you did. So I just appreciate y'all so much. If you're watching this or listening, tune in every Wednesday because we will have a new guest on talking about either wedding planning, wife life, relationships, love, just in general ways to just keep it moving from the time you get engaged, before you get engaged, just anything related to love, weddings, and just growing as a person and as a couple. So I really appreciate y'all for listening, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you.